afternoon, everybody. My name is Keith, and I'm here with Foster Cannon Group. So joining me today is Scott Foster of Foster Cannon Group. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Keith. Glad to be here.
Scott has been a State Farm agent for a very, very long time. I'm going to allow him to tell a little bit about himself, but the one thing that he is very, very good at is selling life insurance. And that is what he based his agency upon for many, many years and has had a huge success with. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the number one mistake that State Farm agents make when it comes to the life appointment. But we're not only just going to talk about that, we're also going to talk about how to fix it. Because if you have a problem, you also have to have a solution. So Scott's going to help us today to understand that. We're going to go for probably about 20 or 30 minutes here, and we're going to talk about this. And I am not going to talk anymore, but I'm going to turn it right over to Scott and allow him to speak. So Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us the number one mistake that State Farm agents make when it comes to the life appointment.
My background, Keith, was a life-only agent. I was a life-only agent with MetLife for almost 5 years before coming with State Farm. And when I came to State Farm, what I saw in being a multi-line agent, unlike someone that comes in as a multi-line agent, is I saw a lot of opportunity. It's been said that you can get in the door through the garage, meaning selling the auto insurance, or most of the time in our case, we got in the door through working with realtors and got in the door through the house or the homeowners. And what I saw was an opportunity to get to know the people, to help them with their auto and homeowners insurance, but even more importantly, an opportunity to build a relationship, build their trust, and have an even better opportunity or better chance of getting into the door and talking to them about their financial services.
Mm-hmm.
So, unlike coming from multi-line in the very beginning, I've often said, what would a life only agent give their right arm for? And that's enough people to talk to. And certainly a multi-line agent has an abundance of that because they're helping them with their property and casualty and getting in the door.
Right, right. So, with your experience here and, having that getting into the door, and, these State Farm agents have problems, I'm sure, getting people into the door. That's the number one thing that we're always trying to do is get people in that door. What do you see the number one mistake is that they make with that as far as trying to get them in the door? What's the hardest part?
Well, I think because of the way the property and casualty business has gone in the last few years, it's become more and more of a commodity, and because it's become more and more of a commodity, it's become more and more of price versus price rather than product versus price or product versus product.
Uh-huh.
And I think although you can do that with property and casualty, it's very un it's not as easy to do that with building a relationship and building trust in order to get to the financial services. Life and financial services, especially larger life cases or business life cases, is much more relational. You've got to build a relation. In fact, they did a study, Harvard Business Review did a study sometimes back, and they found that not only having meetings, but having face-to-face meetings. Now, I know COVID put a dent in that. COVID changed a lot of that. But I think almost as good as face-to-face is Zoom. Sort of like what we're doing today. You can
Right.
at least see the people's face. You can see their interest, and they can see your face as an agent, and that shines through. That it's not just about selling a product; it's about doing the right thing to do the coverages and the protection that family needs in the event of their death or in the event of their disability or the event of a long-term care need, you've done the right thing by having that face-to-face conversation with them. In the Harvard Business Study, face-to-face builds relationship. Face-to-face builds trust. Trust is the core to any business transaction. If it's not transactional, if it's just transactional, trust is not as important. It's more about price then. But it went on to say that trust also opens doors to the clients wanting to work with the agent
Mm-hmm.
on a professional basis rather than just packaging or bundling policies, and more than a policy peddler, if you will.
Sure. So let me ask you this. When it comes to, you said that you get them in the door with the auto insurance, and I'm sure, myself, I've shopped around for auto insurance, and then, I involve my wife after that, and, we make a decision together. But, when it comes to life insurance, man, it has a lot to do with you, your wife, your family. How important is it to, when you're scheduling these life appointments, to make sure that, the husband and the wife are there together and can make decisions? How important is that?
It negates the objection. I've got to go home and talk it over with my spouse. That objection pretty much goes away. It also is very inclusive. You get to find out what the spouse wants to happen if something happened to the breadwinner. You get to find out what the spouse wants to happen to the children, what the spouse wants to see happen with paying off the debts. And certainly, without that, without having all of them together in one place, you don't get that effect. You don't have that opportunity.
Exactly. Well, and that raises a point, because I've used the excuse time and time again. Well, just let me go talk to my wife, and it's really not an excuse. It is, including her, and that's very important. And could be a critical mistake of making this. You want to say the sale, but really helping this person with their financial decision here versus not. So that's definitely could be a huge mistake. What would be another mistake you would think that they could make, when trying to schedule a life appointment? What would be something else you would think?
Well, I think another reason for having both the husband and the wife in the same time at the appointment is you get away from just packaging sales. You get more into what a needs-based sale is all about.
Mm-hmm.
State Farm has several tools for this. They got the simple conversation. They got what they call IFR. Whatever you call it, doesn't matter. The tools are intended to find out what the customer's needs are. Only after you find out what their needs are and what they want to do for their family can you prescribe a solution. It's sort of like if a doctor were to say, penicillin. I'm going to
Right.
prescribe penicillin without ever having to ask you what your symptoms are or what's going on with you. Just coming in and saying, let's give you a good dose of penicillin. And that's the same way a lot of agents try to sell life insurance. They'll over the phone prescribe, let me show you this particular product, this wonderful 10-pay life, having never asked about what the customer's wants and needs are and what their concerns are for their family if they should die too soon. And I think that's ultra important, but it really can only be accomplished, like I said, and build a relationship and trust through having a face-to-face sit-down conversation.
So let's expound just a little bit on that and expand on what you just said. How important is it to ask questions during this? You asking more questions than you are giving solutions. How important is that?
Oh, it's ultra important. If you're not asking questions, how are you going to know what the customer's needs and wants are? And the only way to do that is help me understand what you would want to happen and how I could help you solve that by us having this conversation. What would you want to happen if you died too soon? What would you want to happen if, in regards to paying the mortgage off or paying debts off? How important is that to you? And only by learning to ask these questions, and then the other thing that so many salespeople forget to do is listen after you ask the question. And that's not easy. We think as salespeople that the more we talk, the better chance we have in making a sale. When in reality, the more we listen, the better chance we have of solving what they want to accomplish. And
Right.
only when we listen do we know what's on their mind, what's on their heart, what are their concerns, what concerns you about where you are right now in your financial position.
Yeah, that's a great point. Actually, you got right to me with that one. I was like, man, we got to ask questions, but like you said, listening is super important. Stopping to take a moment to hear what they have to say, because I would believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but like you're gonna pick up on things during that listening time that you're like, oh, okay. Well, not only are we selling life insurance, but the customer just told you they're getting ready to adopt a child, or they're getting ready to, or they have another child that they need to bring on. Oh, well, now we need a rider. So that brings up additional questions, I would assume, right, Scott?
Exactly. And only when you carve out time, not just fit it in between other conversations, but really carve out time. And like I said, face to face, are you given that opportunity to find out what their needs are?
Yeah,
And only when you find out what their needs are and their concerns are and how important they are to them, are you in a better position to help them with the product that would solve their problems.
exactly.
In,
Go ahead,
in,
dude.
in, in some ways, it's a system. In some ways, it is going through the same system over and over. But what I try to emphasize is you want the customer to get an answer. If I meet with you, they're asking what's in it for me. If I
Mm-hmm.
meet with you, is it more than just a sale, or is it helping me to solve my family's problems? And some of them are problems they're not even aware of. They may be what I call fat and happy in their
Right.
own little worlds, thinking that they have enough to solve the problems.
Yeah. I mean, that's very true. And if they think they have enough, and I think a lot of times, insurance agents become just like other professions, become the guide. You're not the hero of the whole situation, but you're the guide. You're helping them to where they need to be, and giving them a structure of, hey, this is a suggested amount of that will help you, because if your spouse passes away and you don't have enough life insurance, how's it going to be? How are the bills going to get paid? How is this going to happen? So it really kind of, you're guiding them, correct, Scott? Is that
It's exactly what you want to become to them. More than just an insurance salesman, you want to be someone they can depend on, someone they can come to, and help them discover their needs. And what I say, have an aha moment of what my needs really are as a customer, and then you become, as the agent, you become the person that can help them solve those needs. Um, Another thing that comes out of this, and a lot of agents have gotten away from this because they've gotten away from the face-to-face appointment and then having the appointments. But another thing that comes out of this is a value added. You become a value added. It's been said many, many times for many years, if they come to you on price, they'll leave you on price if that's all you have offered. And it's okay if they come to you on price, but you've got to give them some value added. What is that value added? This is the free service that we can do for our customers to help them determine what their other needs are and help them to
Right.
determine how we can solve those needs. So another thing that comes out of that is you've got a better chance of keeping them as a client because you're meeting with them regularly and you're building a relationship and you're giving them value added more than just price, even though that may be why they came on board in the first place was price, because that's a natural for people. But
Sure.
then when you discover and help them discover that, like you said, a guide. I can be a guide for you. I can be value added in addition to just your homeowners and your auto insurance.
Absolutely. And two questions I'm thinking out of this whole thing is, one thing that you mentioned is taking time with them. So a question I have for you is when you're setting up that life appointment, how much time do you want to carve out for that first initial appointment for this? And second question is, how how often do you want to follow up with with the customer at a later date?
That can typically be done in 30, 45 minutes. And we tell them that for two reasons. We don't want to take up 2 hours of their time. We don't want them to be there 2 hours of their time, but we do want them to allow enough time that we can get into deeper conversations.
Perfect. Well, that definitely helps, me to understand a little bit more. And I've been on the other side of it of not only buying life insurance, I've been a part of, the Business of Life conferences and have watched what you and Steve Cannon do and how you guys, teach things. So, and I know for me, I've learned, stuff even sitting through those conferences. And so I think out of what we've talked about today is I would also love to hear from you. We started the conversation is the number one mistake that State Farm agents will make when it comes to the life appointment. But how would you fix it? What would be the fix for this, Scott?
Well, I've been working with some agents recently, one on one, and that's pretty much what we've been working on. We've established an IFR program. We've established what to do in an IFR. We've talked about how to get in front of them, and there's just many ways to get them to sit down with you. One of the best ways recently is we've had lots of people, and the agents have had lots of folks to ask if we had had those wildfires that were out in California here, what would I have been covered for? Or if our house had blown away with Helene, and or if our house went into the river or was flooded, like what just happened down in Texas, what would I be covered for? And a lot of people don't know what they'd be covered for. They don't know what they'd not be covered for. So there's a way to use the property and casualty that you already have on the books to your advantage and help them understand what they're covered for, what they're not covered for, what discounts they're already getting, discounts they may not be getting. In the case of the homeowners, there are a lot of endorsements that have come down the pike in just the last 12 to 18 months that we didn't have before. Endorsements about their service line, endorsements about their roof. We find that if you get in front of them, you can spend 10 or 12 minutes clarifying that so they know what they're covered for. This also, the reason I say it reduces lapse it keeps somebody else from coming in there and quoting them a much lesser coverage, but they'll do that with much less benefits and saying it's similar coverage, and the customer doesn't know. The customer doesn't understand enough about what they already have. So that's another thing that comes out of this conversation is that it gives us an opportunity, or the agent an opportunity, or the team member. They're the ones that are really in front of the customer the most. With the team member having this equipment or these tools under their belt, it gives them a track to run on and a track to get to these other lines, other products. And at the same time, build a relationship which not only brings new sales, multi-line in the household, but it also lowers lapse can, which is tremendous. If you can lower that lapse can 10 to 15 points, that's significant. And it's said that in industry wide, it's 5 times the cost for acquisition that it is for retention. So why would you not have a program where you met with the clients regularly to again glue them to their household to your agency?
100%. Well, these are some great topics and great, thoughts that you've had on all this. And Scott, you are a wealth of knowledge with this. I know you personally, professionally here, and you have given me some insight on some things across the years that I've known you, and have helped me to understand a lot more about life insurance, and life in general. So I definitely appreciate your insight on all this, and ultimately, what we're here today for is to say, hey, if this little short talk has helped you, we have the Business of Life Conference coming up in Marietta on August 12th and 13th. You want to tell them a little bit about that, Scott, over at the Marietta Country Club?
Steve and I have been doing this for about 4 years. We generally do 3 conferences a year. It's actually 2 full days, and we have agents call us from time to time and say, what level should my team member be to attend this conference? We find that it addresses a new team member, getting them up and running, and that we also address some things to get into deeper conversations, bigger cases. We do get into some business life insurance. We get into buy sell. We also get into a lot of needs analysis and how to get into the needs analysis, how to show human life value. So we have 2 really packed days, and I'm telling you, they're really packed days. We want people to get a more out of it than they can put it into use in the next 90 days, but we want them to get enough out of it that they can put some of it into the use immediately. And that's why we've set it up in August. Fall Life's coming up. We feel like this is a good time to get a good running start with you and your team members in Fall Life.
Absolutely. And I'm telling you, I've been to these conferences. I know these guys are genuine. They love watching agents grow. And this is for anyone. If you sell life insurance, this can help you, whether you're a State Farm agent, you work for Allstate, or you work for Progressive, or anyone. If you sell life insurance, man, these guys can help you. They can go a little bit deeper about State Farm because they are certified trainers through State Farm, and they can definitely help you with this. So if this, Scott, thank you so much for being here today and being a part of this.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for us having this conversation.
Yeah. So, guys, we're going to wrap this up. And so if this talk has helped you and has encouraged you and lifted you up in any way, and will spark something inside of you, and you'd like to use it for your team or anything like that, we would encourage you to do that. But also, if this has helped you, go to fostercannongroup.com and you can see our registration for the August 12th and 13th conference. You can sign up today. This is 2 days. So imagine if this 20 minutes, 30 minutes helped you right here, what 2 days with these guys would help you to do. And man, we don't even have Steve with us. And he's powerful, and he brings a lot of impact to this as well, and has just as much experience as Scott does. So I think you would benefit from the both of them. So again, fostercannongroup.com is where you want to go. Scott, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon, and we thank you for being here.
Thank you, Keith. You too. Bye-bye.